So we're going to just talk a little bit about a couple of years ago, we developed internship at the undergraduate level. And of course, undergrads get everything, don't they? And then when you become a graduate student, like it's just nothing. And so we actually, the credit goes to Brian Koss. He was a postdoc here in Alan Tackett's lab, and now is a assistant professor. But he said, you ought to develop an internship for graduate students. And so we did. And I just want to explain about what that looks like here. So first of all, we're looking for somebody maybe like yourselves or in your labs or whatever that is looking to include quantitative proteomics in your research. And also maybe looking at the alternative career pathways in biomedical research. Maybe you're thinking, I'm not sure I want to go be a PI. I see my PI writing papers all the time and he's stressed about grants and everything. And maybe I just want to go do science and work in a core facility. And so we developed this short-term internship. It's a 2-week internship, which will basically expose you to day-to-day operations here at the resource, allow you to get some other things, including travel here, a free proteomic experiment, meals, lodging, and then training as well. So you got to have current ongoing research that you could then propose an experiment, just like you do with the voucher program that we're going to talk about here. And then you, as part of it, you would then do your work at your lab. If you got awarded, you'd send us the samples. We do 2 things. One, we would just take your samples and we'd run them through our normal workflow. And then 2, when you get here, then we can repeat that experiment. We're not going to make you prep your own samples for the first time ever. There's nothing like pressure there, and then just say, well, the data is what you got. You did it, right? So, but you'll be able to see that whole process from start to finish there, and then be able to be on site with us. We essentially fly people in on a Monday, work with us for 4 days, stay the weekend, stay 4 more days, and then fly them back out on Friday. So who is eligible? So this is actually, I think Alan and I didn't communicate very well, but at the beginning, we were exclusive to the idea states. And we said, everybody that's from an idea state can apply. But we have now said we are advertising to people in the idea states, but it's open to anybody in the country that wants to put in an application. So, and this is not just for graduate students, it's also for postdocs. We've had a couple of postdocs that have come in and worked with us. And of course, your research has to be biomedical in the scope of the NIH there. So how do you apply? Of course, we've got a website. There's a tab for resources, and then underneath there, you go to internship opportunities, and then you can read a little bit down there. And at the bottom of the page, there's a link that'll take you to an external website where you can then apply. And basically, what are parts of the application? Of course, we need some details about you. This is also, we don't want rogue graduate students that just go out there and apply for internships without their PI's blessing. So we need some information about them. And the real big part is this 2-page application where you basically spend some of that explaining about your research, the significance of it, and then something about what the experiment is that you want to do. Okay, so that, of course, somebody has to come along and tell you what type of font and the size of that and everything. That wouldn't be appropriate if we didn't. And then the project overview and the preliminary studies. But really, it's this quality control data, and we've talked about this a little bit. You have to give us some sort of evidence that you would be able to provide us with the appropriate amount of material for us to be able to run this. And we've talked about that, doing a BCA or running a gel or something like that. And then the other one is, and this is the most important part, is this experimental design. And a lot of people, if they don't understand this, what we mean by this is where you say, I would do a DIA experiment with this number of samples, with this number of groups, and this number of replicates. Essentially all the things that we've talked in here. And so to be able to get those 2 things done, we really and to make this kind of a learning process is we make it into we have a consultation. So to be able to apply, you need to have a consult first. And so I'm actually doing a couple of those tomorrow and a couple on Monday. And basically that's where you present about 5 minutes of your work, and then you say, here's what we're thinking about doing, and then we kind of give you some advice, just like if you were working with a core for any other project, and then you would take that information and put that in your application. So for this year, the way we do it is we are having the application process now. The idea would be if you got selected, you would know before the summer, you could do your work over the summer, submit your samples, and then we would plan on having you on site sometime in the fall. And so I'm the contact person for this. And so if you have any questions, you can email me, fill out the application, and we'll get started. And here's just a couple of the projects that we've done over the years. This will be, I think, the fourth round that we've had. So we had Pearson come in and He Huang the first year, and then Wendy Ma, and then Sarab. And I think I've talked to the Rhode Island people and the Wyoming people, and they know about these folks. And then Jose came in from Puerto Rico, and Sushant from up the road in Arkansas. And then we had, just this last fall, we had McKinnon Walsh from the medical center there at Kansas, and then Catherine Elwood from University of Delaware here. And they get to come in with their own stuff. They get to do as much sample prep as they want. They get to, Stephanie's been really great in sitting down, and they can work through their all that R stuff. Catherine got to do all of that, work through all of that with hers, and she was really excited about being able to do that. And here's just some other pictures. You can see we started this back when COVID was still around. And so here's Pearson and I in masks, and just, we got Wendy here. We had her, we had to clean out at the front end of a mass spectrometer while she was here. She got to do some of that, and their data and all of that. So He Huang was one of he wanted to do his own TMT. He did his own labeling, everything. He was kind of unique because he came from a lab that was doing proteomics. They just couldn't get the numbers that Rick could get, and so he was trying to come and figure out how that works. So that was really fun to work with them. So again, just go to the website there, and you can apply. 5 more minutes, and then we'll break for lunch here. But I would talk about our voucher program. So a part of the outreach part of this was to have a voucher program. And the idea of this is to provide some sort of pilot scale data to investigators that will allow you to have some more evidence that you put into your proposals in that. And so the idea is that we kind of taking 2 of our workflows and sort of saying, here's kind of like 2 sizes that you can do. You can do the TMT 10 sample project, or you can propose like a 20 sample DIA. That was the idea. But then every researcher that comes in kind of has their own ideas, and they say, well, I've got a 30 sample would really work better for me, or whatever. So these are the 2 that we do. So the idea is that as from cost wise, these are both about the same cost. So a lot of people will apply for the voucher and just say, man, I'm so interested in getting this done that if you would, I'll supplement whatever's there. So you just propose your experiment, and then let us take care of the finances on the back end. But just to kind of quickly go over, if you're doing a TMT, it would be really great if you just kept the experiment simple and you did a 5x5. We have a lot of people that come in and try to do a 4x3x3 and squish that into a 10-plex. That makes it really tough. We've already talked about the pros and cons of the TMT experiment. You can also do with TMT, you can do phosphoproteomics, but that doubles the costs. And so, if that's the goal of your pilot program, is to get some of that phospho data, then you can propose to do that, and you might get the whole thing for free, or you might get half of it for free if you get selected. For DIA experiments, same thing again. If you have 20 samples though, and this is not, you don't have to do it this way, but you could, if you had an N of 5, you might have a control group and maybe a disease group, and you might, from that control, you've added some sort of treatment, and the disease, you've added a treatment, and now you have 4 different comparisons that you could do, or anything like that. It doesn't have to be designed exactly like this, but that just kind of gives you some ideas. And you may have that instead of control and disease, that could be wild type and knockout or whatever there. The great thing about DIA experiments, again, is that when you want to ramp that up to thousands of samples, that's a lot easier done. TMT experiments, it's hard to ramp up to more than about 20 or maybe 40 samples with that. Anyway, if you're ready to get started, again, back to our website. We take these applications 3 times a year, and the next one is June 15th. So you've got a couple of months. There's an application online. There's an RFA that you can read for some of the details there. But we would love for you guys to be able to to get a pilot project. Now, we do have some terms and conditions. One is it's 1 pilot, 1 voucher per lab per calendar year. And that also includes the graduate internship. So if your lab sent a graduate student, then you can't also get a voucher at the same time. I know. But all of that, outside of that, I think it's pretty much just go and fill out the voucher application. Now, the voucher application is about the same as the internship application in terms of that same 2-page summary of your work and what type of experiment you're trying to do, and then information about you, the PI and the lab and funding and all that kind of stuff, just for gathering data because we are on a grant and we have to report as well. Any questions about either one of those before we break for lunch?
Dennis, you want to mention that our pay line is a little better than NIH's?
How do you mean by that?
Odds of success are much greater than.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So we did apply.
So our review process is, we look at them, we review them, but our main criteria for the review is not your science, it's the appropriateness of the proteomic experiment and the likelihood that it will help you, not any thoughts about.
Before you get to your question here, and so that's another point, is that we also use the voucher process as sort of an educational thing. So when people present, we can say, hey, we think this would be a lot more appropriate if you use this number of replicates, or if you did it this way or that way or whatever. And then we say, if you do that, then we'll fund it. And you know what? It's almost 100% of the time they say, okay. Aaron, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wondered if you could write a voucher to try to do the targeted proteomics.
That question has come up a couple of times.
Yes.
Targeted is also appropriate, so perfect.
How many graduate student internships do you give out?
We do 2 graduate students per year. Or we're going to take 2 this year, let's put it that way. Yeah, we did 3 the first time or 2, but we're doing 2.
How do you feel about
Okay, so I will say, it's funny that you say that, David, but if you've already kicked out of the postdoc, and you're now you don't get that, whatever, if you can figure out a way to get here, I'll work with you for up to a week. So now, but let's be gentle with that. We need to plan that and schedule that. But really, honestly, we've had people drive up from Texas. We've had people fly in from other places and stay a couple of days sometimes they have some novel thing and they want to know how it works here, some sort of, in all kinds of stuff. And that's really interesting for us. So,
and the thing I'm looking for is, what are your sample groups and comparisons we're looking at, instead of burying that into all the text. Yeah, if you could help me out, that'd be great.
Yeah, so she.
Just list what they are.
Yeah, so if when we get back to looking at this experimental design, I mean, make that a whole section there. Like it's kind of wedged between, you see this data utilization, NIH came out with that and you guys like just cut and paste that into everything, right? I mean, like, but we really want to know, like, we want you to spell it out, I'm going to use this many animals, all of that stuff. Perfect. Other questions? Anything online? We're good?
I believe our lunch is being set up, so we have just a few minutes to kill.